Hello, everybody. Just getting this live started, so I hope you don't doom scroll away. Got a little bit of intro music. I'm gonna wait for enough people to join. You can answer this question in the meantime as TikTok is getting this live distributed out to everybody. Please jump into the comments, ask any questions. Will you support a 28th and 29th Amendment? I'd love to hear from you. And if to give you, I can't have that much detail, but the 28th Amendment is eliminating big money corruption in our elections. So all elections need to be publicly funded by individuals and not corporations. Corporations are not people. Duh. Like, ridiculous. And of course, money is not speech, even though money can talk sometimes. Money is not speech. So of course, we're just getting this live started. So thanks for jumping in and spending a few minutes of your Saturday evening with me here to talk about the 28th Amendment potential and the 29th Amendment potential. I'll do a little monologue and a little thought experiment with everybody once we get enough people in here. Probably just takes about another minute and we should get, I don't know about a packed house, but we should get a lot more people in here. And if you want to jump in the box and you want to talk about this, I do have some rules of discussion. Hello from Florida. Welcome, Sailor Moonwoot. Welcome, and you're in. So what do I want to talk about? All right, so I have a little rules of guests, discussion rules, right? Rules of discussion. And it's really quite simple. If you are someone who doesn't value American values, you don't believe in the United States of America and the Constitution, I'm not going to talk to you really. If you're a communist or you're a fascist or you want to discredit the founding fathers, whatever you want to do, I don't care anymore. I'm just not going to talk to you because that's not my objective here. My objective here is to rally as many people behind the 28th and 29th Amendment to make sure our democracy, what's left of it, doesn't fall into complete dictatorship, and to try and rally 50 to 70 million people behind doing something different. And it has nothing to do with the Republican or Democratic Party. And it has nothing to do whether you're MAGA or liberal. It just matters, are you American? Do you give a shit about our country? Do you want to make the country better? Do you want to course correct and make sure we don't fall into a dictatorship? That's what I care about. So if you're going to try and come on here like some people do sometimes, I'm actually not going to let you do it anymore. We do get some, people that believe in communism or want to talk about land back and so forth, or even dictatorship and authoritarianism, autocracy. We are heading towards an authoritarian government, of course, maybe even worse, maybe even a theocracy, which is a religious state, and we need to stop it. I think if you are a great American, you're a Christian, and you want to be a patriot, and you're a supporter of the United States, and you like your way of life, and you want to protect freedom, liberty, hard work, diversity, those American values, then I'm going to talk to you, and I hope you join me. It's surprisingly today, in today's world, how many people believe in, Nazis and authoritarianism, autocracy, communism. It's a little freaky how many people actually don't want to believe in the vision for the United States and for the Constitution and so forth. Milton, I see you're as the first guest. I'm going to get to you in just a few minutes, but let's first let me do my monologue and talk about this 28th and 29th Amendment. So again, if you're an American, you think the Constitution is a wonderful document. It doesn't really have too many flaws. The evolution of our democracy has had a lot of warts and so forth, but we need to improve things, of course. And that's the idea of the United States of America. It started off with a wonderful document. It was flawed implementation by its people, right? Not everybody was created equal in the beginning. Only property owners can vote, yada, yada, yada. But we got to a place in the 1960s with the Voting Rights Acts and so forth, where we continue to move forward into a better place where all men and women were created equal. And I believe we should continue to move in that direction, but of course we're not. So here's the thought experiment. Here's on the 28th and 29th Amendment. And then I'm going to answer some questions in the comments, and then Milton's going to join us if he's still here, and we're going to talk through this. So I first want you to envision something. So thought experience. Imagine the 28th Amendment, where all elections had to be publicly funded by individuals, human beings, and no corporate special interests, no religious special interests, no foreign agents and foreign governments could infiltrate and pay our politicians to be elected. So imagine just stripping all that out and making sure in some form all elections had to be publicly funded only by individuals, and that amount was capped. It could be even all publicly funded by taxpayers. So that's the 28th Amendment. Just imagine how much our government and our lives would change, because that right there would bring representation back to the people. Regular people, meaning our congressional leaders, would have to represent the people. Now imagine the 29th Amendment, where you have no politicians, no career politicians, meaning being a politician, being an elected official could not be a career, meaning with strict term limits. So you go to office, you serve as a temporary public servant. You cannot take money from big money. You cannot be bribed for favors. Otherwise, you're going to be prosecuted. And you go to office for 1 or 2 terms and you go home. You then don't stay on as a lobbyist, because there would be no paid lobbyists, and you go home. Now, I know what you're saying. Actually, I should say, so if you're thinking about this, you're thinking that's impossible. It cannot happen. And you're probably right. It probably cannot happen, because we all know, in terms of, is it totally impossible? No, but from a relative perspective, it is impossible, because we all know that the Democratic Party or the Republican Party will never do either of these things. So the people in charge today will never vote for it, just like they'll never vote for banning stock trading, just like they'll never vote for universal background checks on guns, even though 89% of the Americans want that. So it will never happen, or it seems impossible. Now let me give you one other variable. Now imagine that 50 to 70 million people united behind this and wanted this to happen. 50 to 70 million is the number that you would need to remove all existing career politicians and elect a whole new slate of new politicians, whether they're independents or a new third party or something else. There are other ways to do this. And it would take 50 to 70 million people that were first committed to supporting this 28th and 29th Amendment. So with that variable, if you had those people, not saying it's easy to get those amount of people there, but I do believe they exist, more than enough, then that variable, now it changes the calculus completely, because now you could replace and put in new politicians, replace all politicians from both parties, our leaders in Congress, and they would go in to enact the 28th and 29th Amendment. Now, is it difficult? Yes, but it became a lot less impossible and much more likely to happen once you have 50 to 70 million people, because the ultimate power resides in the populace, in the people. So if we could stop fighting with each other about immigration and about these other important issues, but much less important, it is conceivable. It's not easy. There will be many challenges, but it's not complex. So a 28th and 29th Amendment, people think it's impossible. Well, we had the Bill of Rights, which was the first 10 amendments when the Constitution was adopted and ratified. And then there have been 17 amendments added to it over the past 225 years. The last one happened in 1992, which was the 27th Amendment. So these things are not impossible. They seem impossible because it's in your mind that it sounds impossible, but it is not impossible. And we all know, when I've done these videos in the past, my normal videos, I've had thousands and tens of thousands of comments of people saying there's probably at least 100 million people that would want to do that. And I believe the same. The problem is we have to reach them. You have to get them and stop fighting with each other about all these other issues, which again are important, but they're not as important. Because these two things take, and I know those of you on YouTube, you can't see the prompt, But these two things change everything for us. So that's the thought on this thought experiment. So with that said, that's what the 28th and 29th Amendment need to be. I think it transcends the political spectrum, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, a liberal, conservative, libertarian, whatever it might be. I think it transcends that. So, Mr. Global, welcome back in, and then I'm going to have Milton join as well. So, I'm going to start paying attention to the comments now and try and answer some comments, and Mr. Global will help me pinpoint some comments. That's what politicians wanted. Hey, Keith, that's what politicians wanted, government to work. They no longer do. That's a great point, Keith. Being a politician was not supposed to be a career. It was supposed to be a temporary civic service. So this is not like an outlandish idea. And most of us, of course, believe in that as well. And then Milton, you're going to join as well. Hey, Mr. Global.
Hey, TK.
Welcome back. Doing well. We're going to get right to the heart of the matter, right? Today, we're going to stick to topic of 28th and 29th. And the rules, Milton, as you're joining, just in case you didn't hear the rules of this discussion, if you're not a supporter of the United States as a representative democracy or a constitutional republic, which I believe you are, I think you've been on here before, and this is for everybody else, though, as well. If you want to talk something outside the scope, if you're a proponent of communism or fascism or authoritarianism or theocracy, I'm probably not going to talk to you. You're not going to be allowed to communicate because we have a mission here and a goal here and an objective, and that's to spread the idea of the 28th and 29th Amendment. Hey, Milton.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? You've been on before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you remind me that you're what generation and where do you sit on the political spectrum?
Generation X, right-leaning libertarian.
Okay, that's right. Now I remember. Okay. So what are your thoughts on the 28th or 29th Amendment, or did you want to discuss something around that topic?
Yeah, the 28th and 29th Amendment are good goals, but I have a different way to get there.
Okay. Can you get there within about 2 minutes or less?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The key word is large congressional salaries. So big money in elections is a problem, I agree. But passing a law, we have all the anti-corruption laws that there is. And just if you pass the 28th, they'll just go under the table. So the crux of the matter is the congressional salary. The congressmen are paid so little that they have to take the bribe.
How much is it? No, what's it, 190,000 or so? I think it's 190-ish, right? Or is it over 200 now?
The point being, it's too little.
200 is too little?
Well, it's evident because they're forced to take the bribes.
But they're not forced to. They're legally allowed to help their elections.
Right, so they're answering to the corporations, not to the voter.
That's right.
So
absolutely.
the voters aren't paying them enough.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that whatsoever. When you mean $200,000 a year to go serve as a temporary civic servant, why wouldn't you want a law, not a law, but an amendment that completely restricts accepting money at the party level and at the individual elected official level under criminal prosecution? Why wouldn't you be in favor of that?
Because I don't think it'll work. I think they'll just be paying under the table.
It's worked in the past. I mean, well, prior to Citizens United and prior to the last 40 years of removing all campaign finance restrictions, there was a lot less corruption. I'm not saying there wasn't any corruption. There had to be much more transparent disclosures of who they were accepting money from to become elected. So those things in the past did limit the amount of money they could accept, and they had to be transparent. But I don't think that was enough. So it's just since Citizens United that basically all the gloves are off, and they can take money from they can take dark money that's undisclosed. I mean, if we're a country of the rule of law, if we create a law and we prosecute the laws that people accept, if they take bribes, prosecute them. Why not?
Well, why don't we vote with dollars? views. I don't understand why the egalitarian system is set in stone, right? Are you not property rights to vote and this kind of stuff? Are you like 100% egalitarian?
Why would you want to go back to property owners can only vote? Are you opposed to having 370 million people with the opportunity to vote?
No, we're trying to solve a problem.
Okay.
And the problem is the corporations are buying the politicians, right?
Right, because they're allowed to, right? Their corporations have been ruled as people. Corporations are people according to the Supreme Court, and money is speech. That law allowed that to happen.
Right. And I agree with that ruling.
You agree that ruling that corporations are people and money is speech?
Yeah, if I'm a tycoon and I want to try to get my nephew into Congress, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to run as many television advertisements as I want.
I completely disagree with that, but okay, that's your opinion on it. That's great. I think that is wildly probably unpopular, but maybe not.
I don't understand why. I'm
One
a
person, one
tycoon.
vote. We the people, one person, one vote.
Okay, sure, one person, one vote. But I'm a tycoon. I have a nephew, just graduated from Harvard Law. I want to try to get him into Congress, and I'm going to flood the newspapers and the television with ads for him. What I don't understand what's inherently wrong with that.
It's inherently unfair. What do you mean you don't think what's unfair?
It's my money. I can spend it on whatever I want.
No, well, yeah, of course, if you don't have laws, but if the population of the United States says, no, that's not fair, which is what I'm promoting, and they say it's not fair, then tough shit. It's not fair. If the American, we're supposed to be a democracy. So if Americans said, no, that doesn't sound fair, just because you're more rich, you have more access and you should be able to flood the airways. If the American people say, no, that shouldn't be a thing, then I would say tough shit.
Okay, and then let's say we ban the TV advertisements in the newspapers. I still got all this money. I still want to get my nephew into Congress.
Have him run. Have him run on his merits. Have him say that I'm the better candidate. That I have issues that I want to solve. I have problems that I want to solve. That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, if the majority of American people want it that way, they're going to get it that way. But I don't inherently understand why I can't spend my money on whatever I want to spend it on.
So you're okay with the idea of bribery, right? So if you give someone money for a favor, that's fraud and bribery. So you're okay with that from a values standpoint.
No, but I have a different remedy. Because I don't think your remedy will work. There's a Scottish proverb: laws are like spider webs. They catch the flies and let the hornets go free.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you create these anti-bribery laws, it's going to hurt the little guy because only the rich can afford to bribe. Whereas if you made bribery legal, it would lift the bottom.
You know how nonsensical that is? Because then why have any bribery laws and fraud laws whatsoever? Why even try and police and have rules? Like, it makes no sense.
I'll tell you why. The founders hated democracy because they well understood that you can't separate money from democracy.
The founders created a system, while flawed in the beginning, it's a constitutional republic, which is a representative democracy. They did not like the idea of direct democracy. So if you're referring to direct democracy, where everybody votes on everything, then you're right. But they settled on a representative democracy as the best form of democracy that they could implement. They didn't have to implement any democracy. They were the ruling elite at the time. They could have just created an oligarchy. Why even bother? If you think they hated democracy, well, that's so ridiculous, because they could have easily set up something different.
No, one of the reasons it's evident that they quote unquote hated democracy is the short-term limit.
Who said they hated democracy? Is that a quote from somebody? We hate democracy? Any of the founding fathers? Who said it?
Yeah. They were skeptical of it. I don't want to say hate.
Okay,
right?
Skeptical, sure. Skeptical. That's a lot different than hate. You understand that, right? When you use the word hate,
yeah, I do
and skeptical.
That.
Okay.
All right. So they were skeptical of democracy, and they wanted to put in some measures to mitigate it, such as short tenure, a 2-year tenure in Congress. This is what it wasn't a 10-year tenure or a 5-year tenure. It was a 2-year tenure because they were skeptical of democracy. So they figured frequent elections would be able to mitigate anything. And back to what I was saying is that they knew that democracy went with the winds of changes and money was involved.
It was. I don't disagree with that. The money has always been involved in politics, even in the early days. Obviously you had to be a property owner in order to vote, which means you were someone that had means and money, and only those people could vote in the beginning. But they also designed the Constitution to change with the times. That's why they added amendments, right? They said they knew that society and morals of the people would change over time, and they allowed them to change it. And we've done it.
Right. But two things. I don't think your law will work, and you haven't recognized that we need to pay congressmen more.
Yeah.
Uh,
It will work. It will work. I don't know what la la land you're existing in, Milton, but I mean, your argument is fundamentally flawed, and the masses would disagree with you with what you're saying. It's unfair.
Yep. I mean, I will admit that you'll never completely eradicate the corruption of money, no doubt about it. But to say it won't work, so let's not do it, that's not what we do. We actually try and solve problems. So you try and solve the problems and you continue to solve those problems. And then, of course, you need to prosecute those people, and prosecution and laws do keep people in line, including corporations. If they can be criminally liable you could also include that corporations, if they are caught bribing officials and giving officials money or parties money, then they could also come under sanctions by the U.S. government. So anyway, Milton, I appreciate your points of view. I've gone way beyond.
You're a hack.
All right. I'm the one with the people that seem to agree with me. So call me a hack. Oh, I think I'm devastated. Oh,
I'm confused. I'm confused, TK. He was talking like, is that something that he was wanting to do, or was he just playing devil's advocate? Does Milton have a ton of money and he wants his nephew to run for Congress, or was that just an example?
I think it was an example, but he gave me the proverb thing the last time as well.
I remember that.
Hey, sassy girl, I see you're in here. And also, thanks, Red. I can't remember the username. Thanks for saying it's $174,000 for congressional. Is how much they get paid.
That's what I was going to mention.
I thought it went up recently.
I think they voted on it. Yeah, they voted on whether or not they should make more money. But is it 2 terms or 2-year terms? Is that what it is for Congress, or?
Well, it's 4 years for House of Representatives, but we elect them every 2. They're staggered, and it's 6 years for senators. So anyway, drop the 49 people that are in here. I'm just curious. Out of the 49 people in here, drop me a 1 if you think that we should have a 28th Amendment and we'd prosecute them criminally if they accepted, or drop me a 2 if you think it would not work and it would be a failure. I'm just curious what most of the people in here, will it work, a 28th Amendment, or will it fail? So far, unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Any 2s? Anybody say the 28th Amendment, we shouldn't even try it. We should just give up and say, you have money, you should be able to use it in elections all you want. Come on, who's the 2? There's got to be one person that disagrees.
Where's Rick?
Where's Rick? 3,500 members in HR 14. Orwell fighting, you're going to be up next. Again, rules of discussion. We are talking about 28th and 29th Amendment. We are supporters of the United States of America as a representative democracy with all of its warts, etc. If you're coming on here to think you're going to debate me about a different form of government or something else, I'm no longer going to litigate those things on this live. My objective is very clear. We are trying to restore law and order and follow the Constitution and make, as they said, a more perfect union, even though I don't really love that terminology, but a more perfect union to continue to evolve our country into a more representative democracy. Some people will say we're not a representative democracy today. I agree. Functionally, we may not be, but I don't believe we should just abandon it. I think we need to come back to it and continue to make strides forward. Was proposed to have, thanks everybody for the ones. So there were no twos whatsoever. So there were about probably 10 or 15 ones.
Here's another question, one or two. Is 174,000 enough money in your opinion?
That's a great question. You know, I will say, I don't know the answer to this. Is 174 a lot of money? Yes, it is. But you are leaving your private life, your private businesses to go to be a temporary public servant. So you're potentially taking 8 or 12 years away from your life. And you're no longer going to be allowed to go into be a paid lobbyist thereafter. So the question is that enough to leave your private life behind and go back? I think there could be clearly an argument that it could be paid more. Because if you're going to really step up and be a representative for the people, by the people, maybe you should get paid even better. I think there's an argument for that, even though 174,000 is fairly substantial, but it's not,
I think if everybody saw that they were accomplishing the goals and making it better, then I think people would be behind it. But because we're not, they don't, why would we pay you more money? It's constant gridlock, right?
Right. If you have someone really, great people in Congress and, it's a hard job, right? It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. You have to, answer to your constituents. So I think, to Milton's point, I think it could be more.
I mean, because over 12 years, that's $2 million at 174.
Right. But then you got to go back home and start something new probably. And if you couldn't invest in stocks at that time, or you had to divest from your stocks, now you're losing income earning potential. So, I think there's a fair argument that Milton makes on that. Red Iron Ranch, House Minority Leader, 193,000, Speaker of the House, 223. That's a great question. So Mr. Global, is they get paid fairly now, but if there was a 28th and 29th Amendment, would everybody be okay paying them more? And answer with a 2 if you think we should probably pay them more in this sort of ideal situation. 1 is no, they already get paid too much, or it's fair as it is. 2 and 3 would be they shouldn't get paid at all, because I know some people say that if you go to temporary civic service, you shouldn't get paid at all.
Oh, shoot, man.
So you answer 3 if you don't think you should get paid at all, because I think, some people have that opinion. 2 with restrictions, 1, 3. Pumpkin says 3. Yep. So I know there was definitely going to be some 3s. Oh shit, 3. Red Iron Ranch. All right, so we have our next guest, Orwell Fighting Fascists. Well, I like when the username says who they are, so I don't have to ask your political stance. Just your generation, please.
Oh yeah, I'm in my early 50s.
Okay, cool. Welcome. I think you've been on the show before, right?
I haven't. I actually just saw you on Josh's live. I think it was today or yesterday.
Yep, this morning.
And started following you. Yep, and I just saw you were on, so I thought I would jump on. So,
okay, awesome.
Yeah, I loved hearing what you had to say on Josh's live. So
thanks. And that's sort of what you hear here is a continuation of, obviously Josh is a Democrat and is, has a wonderful background in state politics and so forth. I'm a little bit more of a staunch independent and a little bit more of an idealist, and of trying to oppose both parties, right? If there was ever an opportunity to possibly oppose both parties in order to do these things, that's sort of where I stand in the world.
yeah. Well, I think that you're on the right track to doing that exactly with what you're talking about. If you really want to, it's my belief that if you want to take all the tomfoolery out of our government, that you're talking about exactly the right thing. Get the money out of politics. And the question that I had for you was, or one of the questions I guess was, so banning big money in elections, would you make part of that to be get rid of Citizens United?
Well, that would automatically cease to exist if you had a 28th Amendment, because it would supersede Citizens United. That law would be abolished just simply, right?
So it's kind of the same, one and the same, right? Yeah.
Well, a little bit, because Citizens United is just a law. And the problem is a lot of people say repeal Citizens United, and that would be great. if you could do that. That would be, but I think would be a temporary band-aid, because just like abortion, it could get changed again. Constitutional amendments are much harder to change. And I think it's more than a law. I think we need more than a law. I think we need an amendment, which is literally like an addition to the Constitution, the land's rule of law, so that no district court or no other court can kind of supersede that at the state level, right? It has to be at the federal level, and it just sort of just takes all the energy out of money in politics.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it also, on the other side of things, is, people talk about issues so much and argue about issues so much. Of course, when it comes to these amendments, I'm always trying to figure out, is this the issue that for the most part, the vast majority of Americans would not fight about and would agree upon? Because if it is, then we have a uniting force and we have a common enemy. And that starts to bring people from the right and the left to see things a little bit differently, instead of just fighting about particular issues.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry, I was going back to your 1, 2, or 3 question.
Yep.
My belief on that is that I do think they're making enough when a lot of Americans are struggling to make, $50,000-$60,000 a year. I think $200,000 a year plus, the best healthcare you can get, that's pretty good. The only reason I say I don't necessarily think 3 would work is because if you don't pay people anything, I think that gives people an incentive to try and graft in some way, right?
Yeah, right.
But otherwise, I would love it if we had a government full of idealistic people who were trying to literally be public servants, and they were not concerned about a paycheck. But I also don't want to make it an elite class that are already rich, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. If you were well-educated, let's say, or well-meaning, but you were just poor, you could not afford to go into Congress if you can't get paid. That makes no sense.
Correct.
From an idealism standpoint, it does. It sounds great. It would be wonderful if that could happen, but it has no way in practicality, right? It's just not practical.
Well, I tend to be pretty idealistic, but I'm also pragmatic, and so it's kind of a fight with my brain. Both sides are fighting each other, but I think you have to have both. You have to have idealism, but you have to be pragmatic. And one of the things that I often am trying to sort out in my head is how, as a governing body, these people, like whatever rules we put in place for them, how they can be enforced better. Because I feel like a lot of times we have rules on the books to keep people from doing X, Y, and Z, and it kind of happens anyway.
Well, I think it would be pretty easy to tell, right? Because if you tried to run a commercials or other aspects, you could follow the money. How are they affording these things, right? If they had a certain amount of air time and screen time, and of course, they have public disclosures. What if you add to it where every congressional leader has to make their tax returns, has to be public, right? And
Exactly.
there's a lot of, there's always problems we have to look through, but I think there's always solutions to everything that we think about, right?
Yeah. I think that your proposal is very sound and it makes perfect sense to me. I think as long as we can enforce these things and make sure that, nothing's happening and being hidden and, however people hide. I don't know. I'm not a big money guy, so I don't know how people hide their transactions,
Yeah.
but I know it happens.
There's also less incentive, though, if they're only there temporarily, right? It takes a while to learn how to work the system. Power corrupts over time. It doesn't corrupt immediately. So if you can validate people with good moral integrity who are going into office for the right reasons, they're less likely to get corrupted, especially if they're very limited in their time.
Well, let me ask you this. So banning money in elections, and I know that some countries do have a setup like that where they're each given a certain amount of money, a certain amount of airtime. It's all very fair. What are your thoughts about lobbyists?
Good question. Great question, because lots of people mold in all lobbyists together, and people just say there can be no lobbying, and that's a little bit of a mistake. I think you have to differentiate it by at least two things: paid lobbying versus lobbying. So,
Right.
of course, our elected officials need to be educated about whether it's the oil and gas industry or whether it's mineral rights. It's complex. Geopolitics and politics is complex. And we do have important corporations and are obviously the most important part of our economy. And even foreign governments need to have a voice, need to be able to petition our government and have a voice. It just shouldn't be paid, and it should be transparent. So whether you're a CEO of a company, you should be able to come in front of Congress, and just as long as it's transparent, and lobby for something that you want. They just should not be paid lobbyists, and those paid lobbyists absolutely cannot fund any elected official in any sort of way, because lobbying on itself is not a problem. It's just paid lobbying is the problem.
No, I agree. I mean, there are things that here's my criteria for how things should be, done. As long as it's done for the good of the citizens, I'm all for it. And I'm not saying that I think we should tear down capitalism. I think I think we already have a system that is capitalism with socialistic programs, and that I think that's, we've seen other countries in the world thrive under that model, and I think it's a good model. I don't believe in unfettered capitalism with no social structure, but sorry, I lost my train of
No,
thought.
you're absolutely right. Capitalism, just like most every other ism, is not. They're a problem because there's no restrictions on them, right? Everything exceptionalism, like we're the greatest country in the world just because you were born here. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You can be exceptional. You need to prove that you're exceptional. It's just we're not exceptional by nature. So anything with an ism, like I'm a capitalist, absolutely, but it needs to be regulated. That's why we have government. It needs to have the right balance of regulation, and that's always a moving target. So you have the right balance of regulation to make sure capitalism doesn't go unfettered, because capitalism without restrictions just leads to incredible amounts of harm to its society. So it's just people have to come first, and then corporations and everything, and our economy, of course, closely thereafter. Right. And the election process has to be fully based on people first, and then other aspects.
Well, so I like the idea of I like how you made the distinction of lobbyists, because I'm all for having people who lobby things that are for the people, right? And if that means that it's an industry that is trying to get funding, or that is trying to thrive and, build new plants or whatever it might be, if that's going to bring jobs to people, if that's going to help our economy, I'm all for that if it's helping the people. But as long as, they're not giving money to these people's campaigns or in any way funding the politicians, I'm fine with that, because I think everyone has the right to lobby our government and say what they think we could or could not do, right? Like, hey,
Right.
here's an option.
Yeah.
So I
Adversaries and allies alike, right? Adversaries
Sure.
should be able to come in front of our government and say, this is why it's in all of our best interests.
Sure.
Right.
And at that point, our elected officials can hash that out and decide, if they, or maybe even, I'm a big fan of popular elections to vote on certain things, certain initiatives. I wish we had more of that. Um, I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they tend to do that more on a state level rather than a national level. But I would like to see more national elections that decide on certain things that typically are not decided by a popular vote.
Yeah, I would think that, we don't have a direct democracy. It's supposed to be a representative democracy. And I don't like the idea of changing. And, once you start trying to change the system, I think we're going outside the guardrail. So people can make arguments for direct democracy being better. I think they're probably wrong, or other forms of representation. But we have this system, and trying to tear it down and replace it with something is really dangerous. So while it will never be perfect, but if you have the money out and your representation is generally representing their constituents, they will end up compromising with each other, whether you have right-leaning views or left-leaning views. If they're all in it for the right reason, they'll compromise. And compromise, as I always say, it's very unusual to hear it, but compromise is winning. It's literally
That's
winning.
true. Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's like as I'm thinking of these things, I'm sort of starting to realize that a lot of these things, the problems are alleviated by the very thing you're trying to put into place. So I think that's why I'm so on board with it on a gut level, because the more I try and think about things that, oh, well, we could also do this and this and this, as you just pointed out, a lot of these things are fixed by the problem is fixed by what you're proposing.
Yeah, one of the ones that comes up often is age limits, age restrictions. No, that's already solved by term limits and no money. So if someone's 75 and running for office for the very first time and they earn their to be elected, it's all for it. They can be but what you'd happen is you'd have a lot less people who are of significant age if there was term limits, because they would go into the office when they're 40 and they'd be out when they're 50. So you just wouldn't have as many. So you'd have a much broader cross section. So as one example, what you said, just like the 28th and 29th, it's going to alleviate probably about 70 to 80% of all of our fundamental root causes of our democracy. And then we have to go beyond that, of course, and then work on different laws and legislation to, one of the other ones would be media reform and bringing back the fairness doctrine. Another one would be judicial reform and make, even at the Supreme Court level, that they could even, they can't accept gifts, right? They just have ethics, but they don't have laws preventing them from taking money themselves. So, and maybe term limits on Supreme Court justices of 15 years. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that are also important, but these two things, I think, first, and then like media reform, judicial reform, obviously fair taxation, tax reform, all those things, I think all cure themselves because you'd have representation that's actually trying to fix shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would like to think that kind of like what you said was once you implemented those things, give it a little time to seep into the system and to work. And there might be little things that come up here and there, but I think you're right. This is a very good place to start. Now, I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, the whole media thing, and to me, another huge problem we have is, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but the lies that not just the media are telling, but that our actual officials are telling. It's kind of outrageous.
Yeah. I think that fixes itself too, because you'd end up having people with moral integrity because they're not going to office to enrich themselves. And then, of course, there's not as much, and the parties, since they would get disrupted, it'd be less of a tribal mentality.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just want to go to the next guest as well.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate your time and thanks for joining.
Thanks
and
for
thanks
having
for
me.
finding me on Josh as well. That's really cool to see the people coming back and forth.
Of course, man. Yeah, I love what you're doing. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. So Keith, you're up next. I think it was Keith. You're going to be up next. Remember, rules of discussion. If you're not talking about improving the United States of America as a constitutional republic, I'm not going to let you talk. I'm just not going to entertain those things anymore.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Keith, how are you?
Good.
Welcome to the show. First time? I think so, right?
Yeah, first time.
Cool.
Just stumbled across it.
Awesome.
Yeah. In my I for 34 years I worked in government. I'm retired now, and I worked for 5 different agencies. I worked on a federal level, state, county, and city. And when I worked for a defense contractor for a decade, like I worked for a man, this goes back to the 90s, who had flown on Air Force One at that time with like 4 different presidents. And I would be in the room with all of these individuals. When people go, I wonder who's really running the country. And I just like in my head kind of chuckle going, I know, because I've been in that room. It's like, and you see on every level, when I worked for the state, when I worked for cities, counties, the amount of corruption that I saw in a 34-year career would boggle the minds of most citizens. And it's everywhere. And I remember a government official saying to me one day, Keith, you know what the problem is? And I said, what? And he said, you. He said, you won't take a paper clip and everything that these people do, and they have tried to coerce you, force you out, do all of these things to try to make you fall in line with their way of thinking, and you refuse. And what has it done for you? It has cost you promotions. you've been shuffled around. It's like, this is what happens. This is why they fall in line. And it's at every single level. I've seen city government in California completely defraud the federal government to the tunes of millions of dollars. And they go, well, we need a certain amount of officials to sign off on this. And they would say, Keith, we need you to sign off on this. And I go, let me read it. And I read it, and I throw it back at them. It's like, I'm not signing that. You're outright lying to get federal funds. It's like during natural disasters, and they do it to well, it's FEMA. Like, who cares?
Right.
Well, that's the mentality. And the one thing that you will hear over and over again is everybody does it. And I used to always say, I don't. But it's like, you're in that minority. I think a lot of people that come into politics, because I've had to deal with them my whole life, it's like they have this, they do have this ideology, hey, I'm going to make such a difference. And you get beat down by the system. It's because there's too much of it. And this is just a minuscule little thing that I'll bring up. When I was working for a city in Northern California, they did this thing where, and they always do it under the guise of, oh, this is for the benefit of the people. So, most all cities, they have like one fire chief, and you have multiple fire stations throughout the city. They said, oh, we need a fire chief at every single solitary station now, for safety, for public safety. They always push this weird agenda. So every time that a guy was within a year of retiring, they would promote him to chief. He would do that for 1 year. And the way that CalPERS works in the state of California is they take the last 3 years that you worked, and the single year that you got paid the highest is what your entire retirement for the rest of your life is based on. And this is the little teeny things that they do. So it's this culmination of, this is a little bit corrupt, and that's a little bit corrupt, and it snowballs into something that gets so out of control that I look at it and I go, where do we get back on track? When Doge came around, as somebody who's seen it at every single political level for 34 years, I was thinking, finally, this is going to be something that both sides are going to be able to agree upon. We're going to get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. You've had tons of people on the left, tons of people on the right that have been talking about this stuff for 50 years, getting rid of it, right? What happened? Elon was in charge of it, and you had half the country on the left flipping out that he was exposing fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'm like, there's no hope for us. I just go, there's no hope.
Well,
and I talk to my brother. Him and I talk every day, and he's about ready to retire. It's his actual birthday today. He just turned 58. And he's the director of aeronautics for a big pharma. Now, he likes what he does, doesn't like who he works for, and he's been there for 25 years because we see it. We see it at the levels of where we've been working our whole lives. And I go, dude, I don't think the system can be fixed. I think it's so broken.
Yeah, the people have
and
to
it's
fix it.
so corrupt. Where do you start?
Well, like you said, people come in with good intentions, and then they have to they do something a little unsavory because they still think they can do good things. And over time, they continue to do things that they shouldn't do. And then at the end of the day, they just end up being corrupted like everybody else. I just have a question for you, though. When did you retire? Approximately what year?
Because of medical issues, I retired at the age of 52.
Okay, but what year was it approximately? When did you retire?
8 years ago, so with 2017.
2017. So could you say just generally over that course of 34 years, did the amount of corruption, the level of corruption continue to metastasize and get worse over those 34 years? Did you see any delineation where things got even worse than they were at one point? Did any singular event happen where it allowed it to even fester even worse?
I think that most people would say it's gotten worse. I think because of social media that it's just exposed more. We see it more. I don't really think it like anything has gotten worse. We were just, I grew up in a time where you were just blind to it.
Okay,
You
right,
know,
right. You didn't see
I
it
mean,
out in the
you
open.
had three channels, right? You had ABC, CBS, NBC. Like Fox didn't even exist when I was a kid. So like whatever they said was gospel. Whatever doctor said was gospel. Whatever the government said was gospel. Like what did Ronald Reagan say? The 9 most dangerous words you'll ever hear. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Like, be afraid of that. I mean, when you look at what our own government has admitted to doing, gassing people off the coast of California, MK Ultra, Tuskegee experiments, putting the Japanese in internment camp. Like, we have had a long history of doing some really screwed up things. I mean, you guys are old enough. You remember Ollie North, right?
Mhm.
We were like shuffling the D rugs and the pew pews and like shuffling it all around with the Contras in Iran and like, let's do this, let's do that, so that we can do underhanded things. When you look at like the last 70 years, going back to like the 1940s, we were back in Iran, backing Iraq, backing Iran, backing Iraq. And we kept on going back and forth for decades doing that. It's like we were hedging our bets to who we were going to like back. It's like this big Ponzi scheme in
Well,
a sense.
let me jump in. I would say, because I never like, I'm here, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Yes, we should always be skeptical of our government. We should always challenge our government. But I don't like, those phrases like the government's the problem, not the solution. It's bad government is the problem, and you need to worry about bad government, and you need to fight for good government. And how do you do that? You try and get better people in, and you try and remove the corruption. And so, yes, America, like 1968 and the Shah revolution in Iran and all these other things that we've done that have been so far over our skis that we should never get involved in. But at the same time, just to then say our representation, our government is the only mechanism we have to protect society. So it's finding the balance. And if we're always demonizing government, who else is the solution? It's certainly not the billionaires. It's certainly not the special interest. Like, government's the only mechanism people have. So my thoughts to you is, I understand you've been in government a long time and you have obviously you've seen a lot in government. So it gives you your perception. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying it's dangerous when too many people believe government is the problem, not the solution, because it is the only solution, is to try and make better government. It will never be entirely.
It's never going to be perfect.
It's never going to be
Right.
perfect. It's going to always have a ton of bureaucracy. Like I always say, you have bureaucracy in your own family, you have bureaucracy in corporations, and people like to think government is so much worse. It's not. It's just a bigger entity. So it seems like it, the bigger the entity, the more processes you have. And that means the more bureaucracy you have. And that's just the nature of any large entity. But it's not to be confused with saying it's evil, right? It can be evil if you have terrible people in it, and then it's evil and it's going against society. But if you have better people in it, it should be moving things forward.
Well, what's that old saying? Like, you got it on the 28th Amendment. Money.
Right. Money.
Follow the money. It's all about money, because money gives them power, and both sides do it.
Right.
It's, and you got to get that money out of the hands. I've said this for 30 years. When you guys were talking about like, should we pay them more? Yeah, I would say pay them more, but then have extreme restrictions. Like, lobbyists, to me, is such an evil entity, because that in itself causes corruption. It's like,
Right.
they're handing out bags of money to these people.
But
And it's like, and you go, when is enough enough? You look what's happening in the NBA right now, right?
Right.
You have like an NBA player that's making 20 some odd $1 million, and he's still working for the mob to fix games. Like, I don't know how you fix that greed factor in people's
Well, that's
minds.
another failure of government, removing, allowing gambling companies to advertise during sporting events and having literally broadcasters public. This is no different than the cigarettes, right? This is like I'm not saying we live in a free country. If you want to gamble, go for it. But promoting gambling, it should be a safety net that you don't promote gambling. You can't give people free money to gamble to get them hooked on it. So again, that's another part of government. Effective government would restrict the advertising of gambling and have fair restrictions, but without taking away people's freedoms. Because when you restrict companies from advertising, that's not restricting people's freedoms. That's just restricting a company from exploiting the populace, which obviously does tremendous harm for all of us. And you see what happened with cigarettes, right? You took out the advertising out of cigarettes, and cigarette smoking is almost non-existent in the United States, relatively speaking. But now we have vaping, right? But now vaping, of course, doesn't have any restrictions on it. And that would be effective government, where you don't allow vapes, whatever those restrictions are. But that's the point of good government, right? So I always just try and promote that. I know people have very strong feelings about government, but there is nothing else. Without government, there's tyranny, and without government regulating things, then you have complete exploitation by capitalism, and then we're all effed, like we are now.
It's like when I typed earlier, and I know that you read it out. It's like I always think back to like a time of like, Scalia and Ginsburg, two polar opposites, best of friends, and came together on so many issues. It's like you don't see that in politics anymore. I remember there was a time in my life where I actually loved politics. And it's like now I don't ever watch the news because it's just toxic.
Yeah. It's why I called my
Propaganda.
channel TK Civics and not TK Politics, because politics is ugly. Civics is the gateway to politics. If people get involved in civics, and I think civics is actually, never thought this when I was younger, it's cool. If you truly understand civics, you are giving people the ability to improve their lives dramatically by getting involved in civics and at least understanding it. Doesn't have to mean they don't have to run for office. It doesn't mean they don't have to canvass for politicians. It just means pay attention to civics, because the Constitution and civics affects every part of our physical and mental lives. And if we want to live in a decent society, we should be focused on a little bit more consideration to civics, because like I say, I don't know what the quote is from the founding fathers. There's many of them, but I would just like to say that politics or democracy is not a spectator sport.
Yeah, and you were just saying it like about cigarettes and everything like that. Like when you take that advertising out, things tend to die out. It's like you look at the media, it's so polarized. The amount of lies that are said in media daily, and I'm not talking
Well,
about only like
take out the
news.
advertising out of media as well, and all of a sudden you've basically solved the vast majority of media. Because if it's supposed to be a public service and you can't make money during while you're broadcasting news, then all of a sudden you can get back to journalism.
Yeah, which is almost like that word journalism. It's almost like an oxymoron nowadays.
Right, because you don't know who's an actual real journalist and who's just giving their
Right.
opinions and observations, and who's just spewing misinformation because they're getting paid by the network and they're running commercials. Like, remember when the Spectrum was given out to NBC, ABC, and CBS in those days, you had to have at least an hour a day, or was it 2 hours a day, of public broadcasting, and you could not advertise during that hour of news. So news broadcasts did not make money. And then you had obviously some brilliant journalists of those times, because they were just
Yes.
there, right? It was a public service. There was no got you moments. It didn't have to be sensationalized, because if it was sensationalized, it didn't earn them any more money. It just made the same money, which
I
was
think
not.
that we need more and more people because somebody that I really admire is Bill Maher. Because Bill Maher, although he votes left, he will slam all over the left. He'll call them out. And he calls out YouTube admitted of deleting like a 1 million Republican creators. It's like you had Zuckerberg that admitted, Biden administrator told him, no, you're going to attack everybody on the right. It's like, you can't have, there was a time when you had entities that would fight for freedom of speech of everybody, even if it was speech that we all disagreed with, because we understood that fear, if you stifle speech, what it it snowballs into.
Well, but you remember what you said about money, though. Money, the influence of special interest money has removed all those restrictions and regulations, whether it was campaign finance reform or the removing of the fairness doctrine and many other things. The big money has been influencing the administrations and the court systems to remove those restrictions, and that's why we are where we are at. It still comes
like
back. It still comes back to that, the big money problem, right?
sure, and you're seeing it from all overseas. I mean, you see the Chinese influence in money, and you see like people like George Soros, who's doing it from another country. It's like that should not be allowed. I don't care if it's on the right or the left. It should not be allowed.
Right.
It's like,
Adelson's, Soros, doesn't matter who it is, just get them all
yeah,
out.
it's like end all of that.
Right.
To me, you need to have politics where it, and I know a lot of people would disagree with this, but you almost need government funding for like more roundtables of both sides and not have all these interest groups dumping $100 billion into a campaign. Because if you're given like that kind of money, you're going to expect something in return. You're not doing it out of the goodness of your heart.
No,
That doesn't exist.
that's the definition of bribery. Yeah, giving
Right.
someone money and asking for a favor. So absolutely. So here's the thing I would like to leave everybody off on. I want to jump to another guest, Keith. So I appreciate you being here, but just always remember that what you said about both parties, they're both corrupted,
Yes.
and that's the problem. But I do believe. Well, I know relatively for certain, there's at least that many people that would want to do these two things. The problem is reaching them. Right. So if there's 100 million people out there or more that truly wanted to do these two things, it could absolutely happen. And unfortunately, it can't happen. It is literally impossible because if you go through the two-party system, because neither party will agree to that or use that as their rallying cry, right? If they were really smart, they would say, but then they're obviously going against all their donors, all the money that both parties receive from all the various special interests. They are in the same camp. They may be taking money from slightly different organizations, but most companies invest in both parties because they just want influence no matter what party wins at any given time.
I mean, look how many times they've tried to pass laws in Congress to eliminate like single stock buying, that you have to just have it in like a general fund. Like
Right.
you have
That's
to
why
have
it's
the
a joke,
people.
right? Because they know they always bring it up once in a while and people think, well, they're going to ban it this time. No, they never
No,
will.
they're not.
They will never do it. And
It's
federal universal background checks on guns. 89% of the American public wants it, including gun owners and the not the NRA people who are NRA members. So it's like, but again, they don't do it because the NRA funds them and tells them not to do it, even though 89% of America thinks there should just be a universal background check. It's like we fight about the same shit for 50, 60 years. We don't move it forward. And it's all not because we can't agree. It's just because the money tells us to be afraid and the money prevents it from happening.
absolutely.
But thanks for joining,
They
Keith.
want us to continue to yelling, screaming at each other on TikTok.
Right.
They love this.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for your insights on 34 years of public service in the government. I can't really disagree with anything other than Keith, other than I definitely don't have the same opinion on Elon Musk. You just have to look at people's character and their integrity. So it was a scam. Doge was a scam. It was a nice idea to go into think about cleaning out corruption, but really all he did was neuter all the SEC, USAID, anybody that had an investigation into either Tesla, SpaceX, or Twitter. That's where he focused all of his time and efforts in, making sure those investigations were shut down. But again, even if he did mean to go into government to reduce spending or fraud in government, that would have been great. But you can't trust those people because they don't have moral integrity. He's not someone that gives a lot to charity or anything like that. He's not for people, and he's not even he's not even a natural born American. He's from South Africa. He's a billionaire. He's on drugs, right? He's on prescriptions. Oh my God, you talk about someone that's wildly flawed as a human being. No, I don't want those type of people doing anything in government. And if, again, there needs to be sort of like a separation of church and state, there needs to be a separation between government and corporations. government and CEOs. There has to be a line. And today we live in a corporatocracy, or our government is functioning as a corporatocracy or a plutocracy, because the amount of money and the certain few individuals, relatively few individuals have so much influence in our government. You want to take a counterpoint or anything, Mr. Global?
The only thing I was going to mention is that I don't think anybody has a problem with any of the things. Well, as the thing, so like Doge and all the things that they're doing, I don't think people necessarily have a problem with what they're doing. I think it's just the people that they have doing them.
Right. And you just can't come in and think you're going to clean house. You have to investigate first. You have to determine where the problems are. You should present that information to the public and to Congress. That's Congress's duty, is to have oversight. And you should be able to clearly pinpoint where that waste and fraud is happening. And yes, that is a part of bureaucracy, but just going in and trusting one person to clean house, that's not how it's supposed to work.
And then the fact that they would say like, oh yeah, we're going to go into Fort Knox and show everybody what we got, and then they don't do it. Oh,
Right.
we're going to show everybody the list, and then we're not going to do it. We're like, it's these unfulfilled promises. Don't say it in the first place if you're not going to do it, because that's just lying. That's just misleading me, and it's frankly, I find it to be disgusting. I don't like people that lie or don't follow through with what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, we live in a world with so much over information that they can just say one thing and not fulfill it, right? And people, yeah, we know how this works, right? Again, and that comes back to the 28th and 29th Amendment. You will end up just getting a better breed of people that go to government if the 28th and 29th Amendment were there. And for those of you that joined late, if you think it's impossible under the existing two parties, it probably is. But if there's 50 or million plus people who wanted to change it, we can change it. I mean, it really is that binary. I know it. I'm oversimplifying it in terms of the process, but I'm not
Right.
oversimplified in terms of the math. And the power is always in the people. So if we stop fighting about certain things, and there's enough people. So that gives me a little housekeeping item, is to please follow this channel. I know there's only 43 people here right now on this live. I enjoy doing the lives because I like communicating with people, but my videos have been getting hundreds of thousands of views. And of course, they used to just get thousands of views, then tens of thousands of views. And now some of them are getting hundreds of thousands of views. And then maybe they'll get millions of views in the future. And the more people that follow and join the list, I have a list. If you go underneath my profile and click on the link, there's a list that asks, are you in? And all you have to do is select what state you're from. Give me your name, doesn't have to be your full name, and just give me your email address. I won't spam you. It's just saying, instead of just having followers, I'm building a large list of people. So someday we can get to millions of people that want to do this. I don't know how long it will take. The more we share this message of a 28th and 29th Amendment, the faster it could happen. I just don't see there any other practical solution. So I know this is a really big lift and it seems like a dream, but I haven't said this quote in a long time, so I'll say it. All bold ideas sound impossible until they become possible. And I know that as an entrepreneur, when you start a new business and you're thinking you're going to create something big, it just seems like, ask your family, ask your friends, you're crazy. Don't do that. You're never going to accomplish it. You know what? Someday you get millions of people using the product that you built or buying the thing that you built. And you're like, oh, remember back then when they said it was crazy? Well, everything sounds crazy in the beginning. It sounds or insurmountable, but
It
yeah,
it takes a little bit of delusion.
it does take a little bit of
It just
delusion.
You have to be a little bit delusional, Otherwise, like, what's the point?
Yeah. So
You don't truly believe in what you're saying.
last week I had 16,000 followers. Now I have 31,000. And last week I would have said, well, I just hope to get, 18,000. Well, it went up to 30,000 real quick. So, now it's like, will I actually get to 50 or 100,000 people that will follow? Yeah, it sounds far-fetched, but a series of events could happen. Next thing you know is 300,000 followers. Next thing you know, after that, there's 3 million followers. And you know what happens then? We really start moving things. We start really having a wave, and you go from 1 million to 3 million or 3 million to 10 million. And all of a sudden, the thing that sounded like a dream or sounded impossible, a 28th and 29th Amendment, starts to sound like, 10 million people are supporting this thing. Now it starts to seem viable. And then before you know it, that wave crushes and you have 50 million people who are on board, and then you're like, okay, now we take action.
That I can guarantee, I could say right now with maybe 80% certainty, if Bernie and AOC made this their main priority, what you presented as what they were going to do, they would win. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, I would think so as well. Yeah, I
They
think if
would.
any smart Democrat was really focused, obviously they talk about billionaires a lot, but I think it goes deeper, right? And they actually have to have the plan. Talk about the solution, pound it home, 28th, 29th Amendment, nothing less. Like, we're not going to accept anything less. It has to be a 28th and 29th Amendment. Here is why, and here's why we want red voters and blue voters alike. We don't care what party we stand on. So for some reason, they aren't as focused, even though they talk about it a lot. But maybe they're also just too not corrupted. That's not the right word. They're too discredited because they're the blue party, that they'll never
Yeah.
get people from the red side to vote for them. Even though Bernie, on the other hand, is quite popular with a lot of Republicans. So, but it's one of those things, right?
There's this other idea though that, like, people are now saying that I'm only going to vote blue because of what's going on right now. And you have to be careful with that. I mean, if you're going to just blindly vote for just the blue candidate and not look into who's funding them, their ideas or whatever, like, this has to be strategic. This can't just be like the blind leading the blind and just trying to play the blue-red game. This is much deeper and more involved
I would
and
just say the
complex than
counterpoint to
that.
that is not anyone that I don't, well, except for maybe the New York mayor, which I haven't looked into deeply on what he stands for, but he's not a federal official. There's no one on the blue side that's advocating or taking actions against democracy. So even if they're funded by people, I understand the point of view that, because I do promote, like, if this can't happen, we need a stay of execution. And the blue party is a stay of execution to democracy. Is it actually going to make anything really better long term? Like, is it going to change the fabric of our society and how we're divided? No, it's not. So I do think it's better that the blue party wins next time. Not think, it's a fact, right? You know how much I'm against corruption and obviously what's happening to authoritarianism, but it's not a real solution, because both parties need to be disrupted. It's just a temporary Band-Aid. And,
I
like,
think the
yeah,
thing
go ahead.
I was just going to mention about your live and this live, I think the reason why maybe there's been this big surge in people is I've not found anywhere else on TikTok that sounds this way. The conversations that you have, the points that you make, the conversations that people have on this live, there's nowhere else that I find the same environment. So I think there's some credit due there, and that's maybe the goal is to create an environment where people feel welcome on both sides to have discussions and to try to get the goal accomplished.
Maybe
That's
that's why
been needed for so long.
maybe that's why we only have 43 people here.
Well, I think that was because of your little mishap yesterday, right?
That might be, yeah, we were restricted and our live got restricted yesterday. So I might be in the algorithm penalty box at the moment, because there was a few hundred people here yesterday.
I was going to promote the live, but I have the setting is turned off. I was going to pay like $57 and get 1,000 people in here. So
Oh, don't do that. Thank you, Orwell Fighting Fascist Now, my favorite live. I appreciate that. Again, I'm just an advocate for civics. And in case I'm not clear, so I do forget to mention this, there's a plan right there. That's a citizen plan to bring representation back to the people. The link is underneath my profile. The first step is to grow a movement of 50+ million people strong, have direct communication with those people, recruit candidates, get on the ballots, win elections, and then pass the 28th, 29 amendments. I know it's a big lift, but just to be clear, my intention is to organize this, whatever it becomes, this independent movement, this potential third party, whatever it could become. My role is to organize, never to ask you for your vote. I want to separate myself. I want to ask for your support to do these two things, but we would recruit political leaders, 536 of them, at least, maybe thousands, and then we will figure out the best ones by having an internal election in whatever this thing becomes. But the reason I do that is because I don't want to become a politician. I'm more interested in civics and I'm more interested in organizing communities, which is something that I have a lot of background and experience with in terms of communication and building applications that can allow something like this to happen. So my message to you is, I hope never to be able to ask you I won't ever ask you for money directly. If we need money to do things, maybe, but I'll never ask you for your vote, but I will ask you for your support. And all that really means is share these lives, share the videos, share the message. If someone gets into an argument about whatever it is, some issue, just say, wouldn't it be better if we just took out all the money out of politics and had a 28th Amendment and talk about that? Like, try and redirect. That's how you support this thing that hopefully becomes some other thing later.
Amen, brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Orwell. Thanks, Mr. Global. And thanks for the gifts and all the likes. I appreciate it. It's very helpful. When you're doing this, especially in the beginning, because I think I've only been on TikTok for 5 or 6 months, and the first couple months are really slow, right? You're just trying to figure out like what's your message, yada yada yada. And yes, some days you're like, okay, like this sounds crazy. Can I do it? And just so you guys know, I know those of you who also wake up like I do, which is probably all of us, that wonder like, can we ever do anything about the direction of our country? We can't alone as individuals, but we can if we obviously unite behind something. And that's why I do this. So even though some days like you wonder like, oh, will I ever get to 30,000? Well, all of a sudden I did hit 30,000. That's good. And then continuing to move forward. So every little bit that everyone does in terms of following and sharing videos helps maybe people wake up to the fact that someday there might be an alternative to do something. And hopefully that day is not too far away. I always think that once you get to 1 million, things will start to go really fast. So I don't know how long it will take for me to get to 1 million supporters. But after that point, you're going to get to some sort of J curve, a place where network effects happen or critical mass. And then things start happening much faster, like in everything. Matt Andrews Time says the Civics Party. We can ask people here, the 39 people here. I continue to come back to the United Party. I think it's kind of boring, but it's the right thing because we want to unite people from the right and the left. And obviously simple is good. Civics Party, I don't know. Eventually, maybe. I'm always looking for different ideas on what would be that, that name that just reflects. I've also thought about Universal Party, but that doesn't have the same cachet as United Party because it would be universal between all people could run for election under the universal umbrella. Whether they were left-leaning or right-leaning would be irrelevant. But again, this is putting the cart way before the horse. But we still like to have these exercises sometimes. Bonnie says she likes the United Party. Top communist, haha.
There's a guy on TikTok that's been starting this like United Uprising. Have you seen any of that?
No. He's on TikTok?
Yeah, there's some guy. It is kind of weird. You might look it up and see his videos, but he might be another person to connect with. And I don't know if his personal name, but it was United Uprising was the page.
I don't like the word uprising. I don't know. That just makes
It's a little too. There's a little aggressive, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't like, I think when you're early on, I don't know if it makes sense to give things a name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I just think, we human nature is we follow people. We want to trust a person. And like, that's why I always say, right, you and I have talked about this a lot, the Convention of States or No King's Rally. Like, I want to know who's the person doing the work, like who's really trying to move it forward. And that's what, that's why MAGA is so successful with Donald Trump. He's the face of the MAGA party. People connected with whatever his message is, whatever he believed. I think he's a despicable human being, but I also understand that he put himself out there as the face of the organization and he got people to follow him. And then a movement formed behind him for better or for worse. But that happens with everything, whether it's a fascist, It's, in the H-man or anything else, it always, that's just human nature. We follow people first. We don't follow faceless organizations or manufactured movements. Like Occupy Wall Street was another one. Okay, Occupy Wall Street. Who are you? Who's the person? Like, what I want to look their history up and say, what have they done? Maybe they come from some nefarious things, and who knows, right?
Right. Well, the only thing I can say is nobody's perfect, right? So, and we have to be a little bit careful with, I don't know, you just have to use proper discernment, It's everybody wants a plan. I've seen them in your comments. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? You know what to do. And you just have to use your brain and put people in that are not being bought out by these large corporations. I mean, in my mind, it's like, what are some of the companies that are lobbying, our government? The people that are inside of those groups should just quit if they're lobbying. Like that's what my mind says. Like if all of their employees just quit and said we're not participating because you're completely buying out the system, that's where I think about it in an immediate uh reaction, because that would be the quickest way to inflict pain, quote unquote.
Right. There are faster ways to do these things. The problem is you could just never get people to do it, whether it's not pay their taxes or do a blackout. Like if people truly could, if you can get 30, 40, 50 million people from both the right-wing people and left-wing people to protest in real life at Washington, that would change things really fast. Would it permanently change it or just be another Band-Aid? That could be argued. But the problem is,
Right.
whether it's truck drivers going on strike or doing a blackout or not paying, you just can't get people, because people have real lives. They have to pay for their kids' schools, and so they're not really practical. They're idealistic, and I love idealistic ideas, but you have to combine an idealistic idea with actually something that could happen. And like even
Right.
my idea and my plan, it's a pipe dream at this point. It can't happen now. It's just a plan and it's a strategy. But it's no different than MAGA as well. Trump couldn't be doing what he's doing right now to our democracy if he didn't continue to have the support of MAGA. So all these things take literally other people behind them. And that's the same thing for this plan. If you like the plan, I need everybody just to talk about it, right? And I know it sounds self-serving, but I'm not trying to be a content creator. I never wanted to be an influencer. I would much prefer to not. I do enjoy doing these lives and talking to real people. That is cool. But man, I'm semi-retired and I have a lot of nice hobbies, and I would love to just enjoy, I'm not at the golden years yet, but I also have kids that
Yeah.
are living in a really effed up world. And if I just am selfish, I'm just saying, well, I'm done. I did my part. And sorry, kids, but I want to see my kids and your kids and all of our future generations have a better life. So then it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Just wake up every morning and go play golf, which I don't do anyway, but no.
Go to the racetrack.
Right. It's not fulfilling, right? That's not a fulfilling life. If you know the
Right.
world around you is burning and you're just like, doesn't matter to me that much anymore. And my kids will have to figure it out. Like, that's not really, that's very depressing, actually.
Growing up, my family was very political, not involved in any way, but the conversations. My grandmother she was huge into the left. She was a leftist and she was a liberal. But and my dad's side was more, straight and narrow, conservative, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I've always had a kind of a both sides of the coin. The reason why I say that is there's always something that's been inside of me that has always thought that I was supposed to do something about it. I just don't know. I just don't know how to get there, and not in a selfish way, because I really wouldn't want to do it because it scares the ever living crap out of me to have that much pressure of 330 million people on your shoulders, and you're responsible for the direction that
Yeah.
the country
Every
goes.
decision you make could have an effect, just no different than starting a new company and hiring new employees and realize if you make a bad decision, they're out of
But
work.
I think if everybody needed a person, and I don't you know, I would, I guess I would, what's the saying in that movie? Uh, what's that girl? Katniss Everdeen, what does she say? I, uh, I offer myself as tribute, I think
Right.
is what she says, or something like that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, my hope would be if someone was way better than me at articulating this message and had way more influence, I would just support that person. I'd go into the background if I had to and just organize, help them organize to succeed. Because at the end of the day, it's whoever can get the message out, as long as they truly believe in that. Like it at the end of the day, the public, all of you guys, the 30 people here, they ultimately decide. It's sort of like building a product. If someone's able to articulate it better and they come from great character and they're able to get the 50 million people faster, then awesome. I'll end up organizing it, helping people organize it.
Bernie. I see Bernie.
Yeah. Yes. Salin Muhammad says there is someone on TikTok that is promoting a major blackout. Yeah, that's what the blackout movement or the blackout. I just saw it again today. I think the next one's coming in November. I'm all for those, by the way, people. Like, I just don't think they have much of an effect, but I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Like any form of protest, anything you can do, whatever you think is the right thing to move our country forward. Mass protest would be great. I just personally am looking at something that might take longer, but is more meaningful. That
Well,
I believe could do something.
and those things are kind of a dead end because there's no, who's the negotiator? Like who's the individual that says we're going to do this unless you do this? Otherwise, they don't. The people at the top aren't going to listen to it. Oh, we'll just outlast them with our money. It'll be over here in about a week or two.
Right.
Just
Just
there
like
has,
Occupy Wall Street. It was here for a while, but I still don't know. Who was the person that was the head of that? Who was the faceless organization? Kind of like faceless YouTube videos. Yeah, you can get some good information, but I don't know if you can trust a faceless YouTube or a YouTuber, because faceless YouTube videos just typically don't do as well as someone, at least in terms of getting subscribers and followers, because you're not following somebody, you're just following something.
right. I think people are able to see the spirit of others, though. People know who's good and who's bad on the inside. I think they truly can identify that.
Oh,
I think
innately.
maybe you could, yeah, I guess you could question that with the MAGA thing. And the only thing about the MAGA stuff is just that I don't like the idea of they're like completely sold on him as the guy that's going to fix everything, because that's just as dangerous.
Yeah.
You're literally giving him all power, regardless of what he does, and you're not critical of that individual. I see that as an issue. So
Be skeptical, just like be skeptical of everything, right? Be skeptical of a policeman pulling you over, be skeptical of your government, be skeptical of your politicians. It doesn't mean you have to hate them, or you just have to keep your eyes wide open. Be skeptical of me. But people tell you who they are, just listen to them, right? They tell you and show you who they are. All you need to do is watch and listen. That's another quote I always repeat. And that's, you'll pay attention. And here's the only difference I say on something like that. I will also give you people my views of certain issues at times. But like I say, if I disagree with you on a particular issue, that doesn't matter. That's just my personal view of a particular issue. All I care about truly, and all you should care about, is do we all align to the same principle and value that money shouldn't be in politics and being a politician shouldn't be a career. If we can agree on those two things as sort of values, then the issues might, because I'm not going to fight for a particular issue. I'm going to give you my opinion and hope to persuade someone that my point of view is right. But someone might do the same thing back to me, and I will learn and realize that maybe my view is off kilter. So it's not about always agreeing with a politician's or an influencer's views. It's just, what are they trying to do? What's the outcome they're trying to get to? And I think that has to be the thing.
right, and it has to be based in ethics and morality and virtue, and not the signaling, like actual from the soul.
That's right. Okay, well,
Poland is great too. I love Switzerland. Poland is also another place that I don't necessarily hate. I kind of like what Poland is doing, but
in terms of their
um,
politics,
I just a lot of the videos that I've seen, and obviously I don't have a first-hand encounter with what exactly what reality is there, but from the portrayal of what it is, it seems to be pretty nice in my opinion. So
yeah,
similar to Switzerland, I love Switzerland. I love I love their geography and their topography. It's a great place. I love it there, and a lot of their stuff is kind of unique too, as far as their governance and
yeah.
um. Anyways,
So I lived there here for 63 years, but looking to move, says Gail, Switzerland, Sweden, etc. Yeah. I haven't been to Poland, but I've been all over many parts of Europe when I was younger and now as well. All right. Well, I think we're done here for tonight. It's Saturday
sounds
night.
good,
I know
TK.
it's a football night, so if those of you interested in football, I do watch college football a little, but I'm not a big sports guy anymore because I don't like being exploited. Since my life is very simple, I hate being exploited, and everywhere I look, I'm being exploited. Right? So football and gambling, rubs me the wrong way these days, and
And the sad part is all the people that are in the stands are the young people, and they actually need to be in lives like this, trying to get involved to fix the
yeah, because their
situation
whole
that we're
day
in.
is either made or broken or made, depending if their team wins or loses, and or whether they lost or won the bet. Like it's so absurd. Like their entire weekends are devoted to some 20-something-year-olds that if they win or lose a game, their lives suck for the rest of the weekend.
Oh, you're not from Alabama? Oh, we hate you. You know, it's
Yeah,
just this like archaic me versus you stuff. It's getting old.
yeah. All right. Well,
Anyways,
let me just mention one thing. Couple things. Parting gifts. Obviously, I'll see you, Mr. Global.
appreciate it, TK.
But under my profile, everybody, just in case, I know there's only 25 people here left, but maybe it's someone. You never know who it matters to. So underneath my profile on TikTok, there, if you click on the link that says Linktree, you get to a page that looks like this. And I'm going to go through it real quick for the 26 people here. So under my profile, the first one there is just an email list that says, "Are you in?" So if you want to support this movement, eventually it will be a movement, just your name and email and what state you're in. And then the next two, this one and this one, are just articles to the plan, citizens plan to bring representation back to the people. One is on Medium and one is on Substack. It's the same plan. Depends how you want to view it. This next one is, do you want to help? And the reason this one's here, I've had a lot of people reach out to me wanting to help. I do need a little help with writing some things for some articles on Substack and Medium and reposting videos on different platforms. So I'm looking for potential volunteers that can help possibly with video editing or writing or working on messaging and so forth. And social media platform management. So you never know who's interested. And I've had some really nice people already apply. I'm not looking to build a very big team. I'm just looking for a little bit of support to help me with some ancillary things. And then this fifth one down here is just subbing on YT. I don't want to say the name. It's really important because if I have too many people here on TikTok, but not enough on YT, if something happens to TikTok, then I'm starting from scratch. And then the other three are just X, which I don't post too much often, or Blue Sky, or I don't know what the other one is. What's the other one? Oh, the other one's TikTok. So all I can ask is just take a look at the links. If you know anybody that wants to help in any way, just look at the article and leave your comments. And if you want to help with a particular job, there's a form there and it shows you what the jobs are. Not the jobs, it's volunteer positions. And again, it's like if you're a retired teacher and you care about civics or whatever it might be, and you just want to play some role in doing this, then I'd love to have the help because I obviously can't spread this message far and wide enough just myself. So thanks, everybody. Have a good evening, and I'll see everybody. I'll probably be online tomorrow. as well. Again, thanks so much. And I'll just leave it with the Ted Lasso speech. No, Steve Jobs. I'm going to leave it in the Steve Jobs to close it out. Steve Jobs poking America.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.